Travel through Harry Potter, become a handsome Cedric, and awaken the White Wizard system. As long as your behavior matches the image of a White Wizard, you can receive rewards such as experience points, magic grass, and treasures. So, the most upright hitchhiker in history appeared. Hogwarts, he leads by example in everything and excels academically. Respect teachers and abide by school rules. Take care of your classmates, prohibit bullying, and in your eyes, do not engage in any illegal or unethical behavior. He is known as the benchmark for meeting all expectations of Hogwarts students. He is a warrior admired by Gryffindor, a god of learning worshipped by Ravenclaw, a prefect respected by Hitchhiker, and a White Wizard most feared by Slytherins. He is a national idol who repeatedly thwarts Voldemort's conspiracy. Harry said, with him around, "Why do you still want me as the savior?" Hermione, Ginny, Cho Chang, Luna, how could there be such a perfect person in the world? Voldemort prophesied me wrong, Cedric is my true nemesis. Dumbledore said, am I really wrong? Felu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 1. My child at home is really going crazy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cedric Diggory. A big boy full of reason, talent, elegance, and a sense of justice. He has everything people expect of Hogwarts students. Cedric frowned at himself in the mirror. It has been 6 years since he traveled to the world of Harry Potter. A few days ago, he also received an admission letter from Hogwarts, and it is time to go to school. Although he really likes the appearance and quality of this body, it's not easy to be a righteous person. The world of Harry Potter. It is a wizarding world where attack and defense are not proportional. Even if the magic is strong, the body is still the body of an ordinary person. No matter how powerful the wizard is, if he is momentarily distracted, he may be killed by the enemy. In the original work, even Cedric, who is powerful and deeply loved by his classmates, cannot escape death. He fully embodies the unique qualities of Hitchhiker Academy and is a role model worth learning from. He is a kind and loyal friend who advocates fair competition. His death has shocked everyone, whether they know him or not. Please always remember him, and when you have to choose between the right path and the shortcut, don't forget what an honest, kind, and brave boy has experienced. I don't know how many times. He heard in his dream that Dumbledore praised him after his death, and then suddenly woke up with a sweat all over his body. This is too scary. In order to sleep soundly, I must make the old snake that always wants to resurrect die completely. Only in this way can I have a good night's sleep. Fortunately, I activated the righteous system. Everything will be different. Cleared my throat. Cedric began to tidy up his appearance in front of the mirror. He has an important meeting today. He hopes to perform well in the eyes of that person in order to qualify early for going to Hogwarts. After a moment, there was a knocking at the door downstairs. Cedric's father quickly stepped forward and quickly opened the door. Standing at the door was a witch wearing square glasses, black hair curled into a high bun, and a dark green robe. "Hello, Mrs. McGonagall, I'm sorry to bother you with such a trip amidst your busy schedule." Amos Diggory quickly gave way to the doorway and extended an invitation to Professor McGonagall. "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Diggory." Professor McGonagall nodded as a gesture. Hogwarts has entered the enrollment season and is now busy visiting Muggle families with children with wizarding talents. Fortunately, the other party's letter came early. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have time to make this trip. After arriving inside the house and taking a seat, she immediately took out the letter she had received and asked with confusion. "Mr. Diggory. To be honest, although I understand your request, I'm a bit confused about what you mean. What does it mean to practice magic, so I hope to stay at Hogwarts a little earlier?" Professor McGonagall stared at the other person behind his square glasses. She wants to confirm if the other person is playing with her. Amos Diggory waved his hand quickly, seeming prepared for the question. I knew you misunderstood, so I specifically invited you to come in person to explain. We all know. In families with adult wizards, even young wizards practicing magic are difficult to distinguish, but our family situation is special. He looked upstairs with some caution. Then he lowered his voice and said, My child is in a special situation, so I hope to move in early. Is the situation special? Professor McGonagall immediately associated himself with Neville. That is another child who almost became the son of prophecy, and due to being attacked, his magical talent is very poor. I almost couldn't be recognized by Hogwarts' enrollment magic. No, it's not that my talent is bad. Amos Diggory awkwardly explained again. On the contrary, my child's talent is very good, it's just. He glanced at his wife. After receiving encouragement, he continued to explain to Professor McGonagall, it's this child in our family who needs to go crazy. What? Professor McGonagall tilted her head, thinking she had heard the wrong thing. What kind of ghost adjective is this? Good is good, bad is bad. Who would be so good as to become evil? Let's put it this way. Amos spread out his hand and said, Actually, he asked me to write that letter, mainly because he said it was wrong for him to use magic at home. It's not what I said, Father. Everyone looked up according to the voice. Cedric slowly descended the stairs. This is a regulation of the Ministry of Magic. It is explicitly stated in the regulations on prohibiting the use of magic by underage wizards that wizards under the age of 17, minors, are not allowed to use magic outside of school. The first time I used it, I received a warning letter from the Ministry of Magic, and the second time I was fired, which is the reason why I want to stay in Hogwarts early. Of course, this clause still has flaws. Mainly because the trace cannot be specifically identified, whether the magic was released by underage wizards, this technology has not been reformed for decades, and I will definitely find ways to improve it in the future. Cedric approached Professor McGonagall. The vice principal of Hogwarts across from him, he slightly bowed to show politeness. I'm very sorry to bother you. But since I started inspiring magic at the age of 5, I have been too curious about spells, so I can only apply to you. I hope you can understand my feelings. After finishing all of this, Cedric's ear once again received a system prompt. Popularize science, maintain magic regulations, reward experience points of 100. I see. Professor McGonagall nodded. She suddenly understood what it meant to become evil. Glancing at Cedric, who was dressed cleanly and neatly, Professor McGonagall was still very satisfied with his appearance. She loves excellent students the most. A newly enrolled child. It is extremely rare to have such a performance from him. Many adult wizards, even if they possess magic, still mess themselves up and down. She set her mind on the path of calmness. So, regarding your application to enter Hogwarts early, I will now make a brief inquiry about you. Professor McGonagall never expected it. The next round of QA will shock her so much. 2. Suppress evil spirits, starting from contact with magic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good. Cedric nodded. He is full of confidence in testing. Over the years, due to the existence of a system, he has added a lot of points to himself. And with his mature adult mind. Among children of the same age, it is impossible for anyone to be more disciplined than him. Before answering the question, he quickly opened the panel and added the 100 experience points he had just obtained to his magic points. Name: Cedric. Bloodline: the bloodline of a wizard. Magic: 32 points, not flowing. Before 50 points, experience points can be increased by 1 point every 100 points. Comprehensive value: 15 points. 80 points for third-rate experts, 85 points for second-rate experts, 90 points for first-class experts, 95 points for super experts, 99 points for 3 giants, and 100 points for God-level experts. Talent Overview. The levels, from high to low, are SSSSSS A B C D E. SS level talent. Infectious power. S. level talent. Cast without a staff. A. level talents. Transformation, curse, Quidditch, herb, potion, fighting, white magic, defense. B. level talents. Brain sealing, black magic, attack, pet affinity, language. C. level talent. Prophecy. Explanation. Talent can only be increased through talent points or self-cultivation. Curse. Cleanse Curse LV3, 28/300, Repair Curse LV2, 149/200, Flying Curse LV1, 16/100. Available experience points. 0 points. Available talent points. 0. From this panel, it can be seen that Cedric's template is still very powerful, with A. level talents in multiple abilities. The low rating is mainly due to the small number of spells and their low level, which has slowed down the progress. You should know during the Goblet of Fire era. He was also selected as the representative of Hogwarts. That is to say, at that time, the Goblet of Fire believed him to be the most powerful student in Hogwarts' overall strength. Of course, Cedric is stronger now than before. After years of hard work, he increased his magic from 10 points to 32 points, and also cast spells without a staff, which was originally an A. level talent, and forcefully upgraded it to S. level. Yes, these values can be increased not only by points, but also by personal cultivation. This is still because he is young. I can only face my own parents every day. After entering Hogwarts, facing more people will greatly improve the efficiency of experience brushing. After all, there are too many things that conform to the right path. By the way, you just mentioned modifying magic. The magic of the trace silk is very profound and cannot be improved casually. Professor McGonagall's expression was somewhat serious. She doesn't like little wizards who run trains with their mouths full. So her first sentence was to remind Cedric not to be too ambitious. Of course, this will be a long goal that I don't even know if I will succeed in, but it still doesn't hinder me. I will set it as a goal and work hard for it. Cedric shrugged his shoulders. After all, the goal is to be a bit harder, right? Hear his answer. Professor McGonagall's eyes lit up. Being neither humble nor arrogant, with clear organization and logical thinking that adults may not necessarily possess. That's really great. Of course, this must not be empty talk. Suppress the psychological joy. Professor McGonagall continued to ask quietly, so you should be very fond of studying spells. Can I know your current progress? When asked about this, she noticed that Cedric was clearly a bit nervous. In fact, this is a trap question because Cedric mentioned earlier that young wizards are not allowed to use wands outside of school. So if he says he is very proficient, so it proves that everything before is just his lie. Sorry. Cedric shook his head very dejectedly. Because I couldn't use a wand, I had to practice some simple magic that didn't require a wand to make up for my own love for magic. He lifted his hand as he spoke. The suitcase is flying over. As the flying curse is cast. The suitcase, originally located in the room on the second floor, flew straight up the stairs like a swallow returning to the forest, and handed the handrail into Cedric's hand. Professor McGonagall was both surprised and delighted in his heart. Surprisingly, this flying spell is not simple, it's not even a spell that younger wizard students will learn. And Cedric was so skilled in his performance. When the suitcase flew down the stairs without any collision, it was enough to see that he had truly mastered the spell. What shocked her even more was, Professor McGonagall noticed that Cedric did not take the wand placed inside his clothes. That is to say, he cast spells without a staff. This concept is dozens of times more difficult than the flying curse. Many wizards have never been able to master this technique in their lifetime. Continuing. Cedric showed 2 other types of spells. Clean up and restore as before. He became even more proficient in these 2 skills, and could almost complete the spell in the blink of an eye. Very good, really very good. Professor McGonagall, who is strict, rarely praises a young wizard in person. However, after seeing his performance, I couldn't help but show a satisfied smile. This child is indeed exceptionally talented. This made her unable to resist asking for more information about him. So, besides modifying the trace, do you have any other pursuits? The Diggory couple on the side suddenly became nervous. They leaned together, clasping their hands tightly with 10 fingers, pursing their mouths and staring at their child Cedric with dry eyes. Don't say that. Of course. Cedric suddenly stood up. He had a light in his eyes and shouted loudly. Actually, my first wish is to break the spell on the mysterious person's name, so that everyone can openly call out his name. To eliminate the Black Wizard, we must start by burying the mysterious person. Sure enough, this is it. The Diggory couple closed their eyes with a look of lovelessness on their faces. They could only silently pray in their hearts, hoping that Professor Mike would not be frightened by Cedric's remarks. This child. Surprisingly, he pointed his sword at a mysterious person. Professor Mike stood up with a whoosh. 3. A beautiful day is finally coming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh my goodness, how dare you! Professor McGonagall's chest undulated rapidly. The Diggory couple, who had anticipated it earlier, immediately took action. The lady stepped forward to comfort her, and with a wave of her husband's wand, she immediately brought a cup of hot tea. Mr. Diggory gave Cedric a glare and said angrily, "Didn't I ask you to speak a little more easily first? Didn't we first mention trace silk? Cedric argued strongly, we should no longer be afraid of mysterious people. If it weren't for his name being cursed by the Death Eaters, then I would definitely compose a song for his failure. I not only have to recite, but also sing it out. If you're afraid to even say his name, how can you stand in front of him, face him, and eliminate him?" Cedric waved his small arms. Even the meticulous hairstyle on the head trembled slightly with the movement of the body. Professor McGonagall, who used to be a member of the Order of the Phoenix. It seems that I also recall the years when I resisted Voldemort, was passionate, and sacrificed myself to forget death. The Digoris are once again tightly intertwined. Here we go again. Here we go again. This kid's magical speech. Every time I hear him say this, I feel my heart boiling, and then I am moved by him. The result was a disturbance at home. Parents are not like parents, children are not like children. Isn't this really a kind of curse? Sorry. Professor Mike took off his eyes and calmed his mood by wiping the lenses. After rapid thinking, she quickly made a decision. A very good attitude. Cedric, I am willing to act as your guarantor and allow you to move in early to Hogwarts. Promise Cedric. Not only because of his talent, but also because of his aspirations. Bringing him back to Hogwarts and having Dumbledore also observe is the safest approach. Professor McGonagall, who had tidied up her emotions, quickly regained her usual harshness. As long as you're ready, just send me a message. You can do it now. Cedric lifted the suitcase in his handle. Although I'm not sure if you will agree to my application, I know you're busy, so I'll prepare in advance. If I can help you save some time, that would be great. Besides, don't be fooled by my small age. In my daily life, I can already live independently. Mr. and Mrs. Diggory held their breath and focused. I'm afraid my breathing might interfere with Professor McGonagall's judgment. You're very thoughtful. Professor McGonagall couldn't help but praise again. Such an excellent child, she really likes it the more she looks at it. If future wizards can all be like him, then the beautiful days of the wizarding world will not be far away. However, this matter still needs to take into account the feelings of the other party's parents. She turned her gaze to the Diggory couple and said, "If you can rest assured." Absolutely rest assured. Hogwarts is already our alma mater, and we absolutely believe in Principal Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall for your character and strength. My child followed you, and that's when my heart finally calmed down. You can agree, this is really the best thing. Mr. and Mrs. Diggory were full of praise and witty words, and in just 3 seconds, they sang in unison, finishing the long thought-out words of praise. So, although a hint of strangeness was detected, but Professor Mike couldn't find any reason to refuse in his heart. She pulled out her wand and clicked on the suitcase next to Cedric's hand. Wait until the suitcase floats. Professor McGonagall extended his hand to Cedric and said, "Let's go, to Hogwarts. This is really cool." Cedric walked over the table to the other side and carefully placed his hand in Professor Mike's palm. For him, being able to go to Hogwarts, the beautiful days are finally coming. He raised his head and excitedly said to the tall Professor McGonagall, "Professor, I will never forget this day." Say it. He bid farewell to his parents on the other side and said, "Father and Mother, I'll leave first. I'll miss you all. Mm. Mrs. Diggory covered her mouth and turned to lie on her husband's shoulder. Only in this way she was able to prevent her smile from being seen by Professor McGonagall and Cedric. "Help me quickly." Mr. Diggory, who was almost unable to suppress the corners of his mouth, quickly murmured in his wife's ear, to prevent her husband from revealing his true feelings. Mrs. Diggory pinched a small piece of meat hard on her husband's back and then twisted it. Sour and refreshing. Mr. Diggory's eyes burst into tears and he said, "Go ahead, kid. Your mother and I will take care of ourselves." What a touching family relationship. Professor McGonagall did not conceal his envy of the Diggory family. She rubbed her eyes. "Don't worry, during the summer vacation, I will give you a healthier Cedric." Of course, of course." Mr. Diggory kept nodding, too much to say anything. "So, let's go." Professor McGonagall led Cedric away from the house. After leaving the house, Cedric only felt a twisted sensation coming from Professor Mike's arm. Then the two figures flashed. Then it appeared in a very ancient wizard town. Cedric noticed a shop called Three Broom Bar next to him, and he immediately realized it. This is Hogmold Village. Yes, let's walk into Hogwarts next. On the way, I will tell you some basic precautions. Okay, Professor McGonagall. Cedric was extremely excited. Having been in the world of Harry Potter for so many years, I finally arrived at Hogwarts. The beautiful days are finally coming. The Diggory couple hugged each other and wept with joy. The child finally left home. He can finally stop harming them. Mrs. Diggory took off her hair accessories, shook off her elegant and exquisite hairstyle, and walked upstairs with a thud. I'm going to sleep in the cage now. In the future, if anyone doesn't let me sleep in, I'll be in a hurry with them. Me too. Mr. Diggory waved his wand. Beer and side dishes all flew onto the coffee table on the sofa. I must watch a Quidditch game on the sofa today. He threw himself into the soft sofa, took a deep breath, and raised the bottle high to pay tribute to his son's next stop. Good luck, Hogwarts. For sunny and cheerful big boy Cedric. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hogwarts. Established around 990 AD, it is one of the 11 known wizarding schools in the world and is considered one of the best wizarding institutions in the wizarding world. Hogwarts during summer vacation is inevitably a bit quiet. But with the arrival of Cedric, this silence was quickly broken. Early morning. Cedric ran out of the public lounge and greeted the people he met along the way. He first encountered its administrator Argus Filch. Hello, Mr. Filch. I am Cedric who checked in early. If you have anything I can do, feel free to contact me anytime. I know you, I just hope you can abide by the school rules. Filch bulged his fish-like eyes and hugged his cat named Mrs. Louise. Of course, I have already read Hogwarts, a section of school history, thoroughly, and I will strictly abide by the school rules and will never let you worry. Cedric finished speaking. The system prompt rings in my ear. Declaration, advocating compliance with school rules and obtaining 100 experience points. His smile became even more pronounced. As long as he can brush his experience, whether you are blind or not, then you are his good friend. Received rewards. His smile naturally added a touch of sincerity. Watching the sunny and cheerful big boy Cedric, even the lifeless Filch was stunned. I've been at Hogwarts for so long. For the first time, he felt an unreserved kindness from a young wizard. Children are not good at deceiving people. With Filch's terrifying tower watchman-like appearance, it is almost impossible for newly enrolled children to like him. After being caught by him once or twice, the children's disgust towards him skyrocketed. Over time, he has also completely become the opposite of the little wizards. How long has it been since he saw such a sincere gaze? Okay, then. Filch suddenly felt a sense of inexplicable guilt in his heart under Cedric's pure gaze. It's like a dark creature suddenly being thrown into the sunlight. There is a feeling of being pricked by sunlight. I was really wrong when I spoke to him so coldly just now. Filch unconsciously changed his attitude and said, if you have anything to do in the future, come to me. There aren't many people who are more familiar with this school than I am. Okay, goodbye, Mr. Filch. Cedric will leave after finishing his experience points. According to his experience, the same person will not brush experience points twice in a day for the same reason. Goodbye again. Filch stared blankly at Cedric's back until it disappeared. When turning around and leaving, somehow, his footsteps inexplicably relaxed a lot. Run around the corner. Cedric suddenly felt a chill approaching. Take a look up. Isn't this Professor Snape, the pure love war god and double-sided spy of Hogwarts? At first, I would still dislike him when reading the original work. Only when we know more about the truth later will we know how touching his story is. Put away your gaze. Snape let out a low cry, and the cold aura that accompanied him suddenly expanded outward. He is sensitive and delicate in his mind, otherwise he wouldn't be able to work as an undercover agent. Cedric's complex gaze upon him immediately caught his attention. Sorry, Professor Snape. Cedric quickly adjusted and confidently introduced himself. Hello Professor, I am Cedric who checked in early. I know you are good at defense against the dark arts, potions, charms, and brain sealing. I am looking forward to your guidance. Snape silently scanned Cedric up and down. After not noticing any negative feelings, he arrogantly said. Then you must not be the kind of fool I often encounter. I don't think I'm stupid myself, and I've already self-studied potions in first grade. Including thousands of magical herbs and mushrooms. Seeing Cedric's confident expression, Snape directly asked, what would be the final product if narcissus root powder is added to mugwort extract? You will receive the water of life and death, which is a powerful sleeping pill. Where does Huang come from? It's some kind of firmness in the cow's stomach. After 2 questions, Snape suddenly increased the difficulty. Tell me the formula for the healing potion. 2 bitter mugwort plants, 10 grams of unicorn tail hair, and 10 grams of fresh white grass. Cedric remained calm and composed. Although wands cannot be used. But before coming to Hogwarts, he had already started self-learning very early, and it can be said that problems within 3rd grade would not be difficult for him. Very good. Snape nodded in satisfaction. These 2 questions are no longer within the scope of 1,000 magical herbs and mushrooms, but rather within the more difficult textbook of magical potions and potions. Can answer in seconds. Obviously, the effect of Cedric's self-study is very solid. Put it this way. Just now, his confession also had a self-deprecating element, intelligent yet self-deprecating. This is a student that Snape really likes. If you have any questions in the future, you can come to me, but remember, don't ask me some stupid questions. Congratulations on passing Professor Snape's test and gaining 1000 experience points. Sure enough, the key character has a lot of experience. The reward was actually 10 times that of others, and Cedric's heart suddenly felt uneasy. This is a question. It's almost as much as half of what I used to brush at home in those years. Previously, Professor McGonagall did not trigger a reward, possibly because he had applied for early check.in. But now it is purely students seeking advice from teachers. This is what students should do. Only behaviors that do not involve other interests and goals can trigger rewards. Cedric seems to have a better understanding of how the system operates. In addition to the daifengshu, salad of assorted fresh vegetables, he just got, his mood suddenly improved. Cedric confidently patted his chest. Don't worry, Professor Snape. I will make you proud of me. Confidence is quite good. Snape felt like he had been hit by a warm smile, something he had never experienced during his student years. His mouth also curved unconsciously. Although this did not change the essence of his cold and ancient well aura, it seemed like sunlight was shining into the well at this moment. Although it did not dispel the cold. After all, it brought more light and became different. It only takes one day. The professors at Hogwarts all know that a sunny and cheerful big boy named Cedric has arrived in the castle. Dumbledore was also quickly alarmed. 5. That is a very ancient wand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha ha ha. You did really well, Cedric. This thing called boxing is really good for exercising and looks very energetic. Hagrid's hearty laughter surrounded the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Of course, I have been training for a long time, and this thing can exercise my reaction ability. The duel between wizards places great emphasis on reaction speed. Cedric quickly swayed his body left and right, making a quick left and right hook. Fists and punches hit the target Hagrid made for him. At the same time, this kind of practice can even help me defeat enemies close by as soon as I lose my wand. At the same time. In the principal's office. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall were also inside the crystal ball, observing Cedric chatting with Hagrid. For a long time. Dumbledore then withdrew his gaze and placed his hands together on the table, tilting his head in boasting. What a novel theory. He looked at the humanoid target swayed left and right by Cedric, his eyes slightly narrowed behind his crescent glasses. I feel like I can't handle such a punch either. Yes, he always has some very special ideas. Professor McGonagall has been running outside these days. But in the evening, she usually goes back to Hogwarts and has dinner with Cedric to chat. 2 days down. Many of the other party's comments made her think deeply and feel extremely scared. For example, what would reform the Ministry of Magic to truly become an organization that serves the wizarding people? For example, establishing common values. I hope that wizards can abide by principles such as freedom and equality. All of this. While Professor McGonagall felt happy, he also couldn't help but feel deeply worried. Such a grand goal. Will it completely crush this little wizard? You should know that many times, once disappointment accumulates, it is easy for people to start going to extremes. And Cedric's goals, each one is grand and terrifying. Principal, I'm actually very worried about him. Professor McGonagall expressed his concerns. Dumbledore remained silent for a long time before slowly speaking. Guiding the little wizard correctly is exactly what we should do. Filch, Hagrid, Snape, and even Maliva yourself all recognized this sunny and cheerful big boy in just 2 days. This situation reminds me of a close friend. Professor McGonagall was greatly surprised in his heart. Even the usually serious face cannot be sustained. Are you saying? Grindelwald. This is an existence far more terrifying than Voldemort. Grindelwald's greatest skill is not only his magical prowess that can rival that of Dumbledore. Another thing is strong personal charm. He once used his eloquent tongue to deceive and turn the prisoners of the entire American magic prison around. He also instigated Oro Abernathy and the sheep-eating beast Antonio to help him escape from prison. At Father Raschay's cemetery, Grindelwald used a speech to easily persuade hundreds of wizards to agree with his ideas, including several Aurora who were originally trying to apprehend him. For example, Quinny Goldstein and Claydens Barborn. These people used to strongly oppose him. Isn't this analogy too exaggerated? Professor McGonagall couldn't compare Cedric with Grindelwald in any way. Indeed, this metaphor is a bit extreme. Dumbledore must also admit that such accusations are too harsh. But it's not his fault either. He has been walking on thin ice all his life. My close friends Grindelwald and my beloved disciple Tom have all become disasters in this world. Tom will definitely be ended by Harry, it is fate's decision. However, we also need to guard against the possibility of a second Grindelwald appearing again. The office fell into silence for a moment. Dumbledore didn't daydream for too long, he quickly withdrew from his memories. However, we can still observe him from many angles. Dumbledore picked up the feather pen on the table, quickly wrote a letter, and awakened Fawkes standing on the shelf next to him. Help me give it to Mr. Ollivander. I have something I want to ask him. McGonagall understands. Dumbledore must have wanted to consult Cedric's wand. Wands are capable of selecting wizards. Basically, the wand held by the wizard can reflect the wizard's true intention. There's one more thing. After delivering the letter, Dumbledore turned his gaze to Professor McGonagall and said, I hope you can teach him the Guardian Curse. I understand. Professor McGonagall nodded. The Guardian Curse is also a magic that can test a wizard's character. Magic is a wonderful existence. Every wizard has their own preference for magic, and the distinction between black and white wizards comes from this. Give an example. The blue and black flames manufactured by Grindelwald can ignite the European continent, but they may not necessarily turn into roses stained with dew. This is also one of the magic that proves the true intention of wizards. Of course, this is not conclusive evidence, for example, Grindelwald's guardian god is the phoenix. But it can still be used as a reference. Because this directly points to the wizard's true intention. Snape's guardian deity, for the first half of his life, was a mother deer like Lily, but later when he guarded Harry, he became a mother deer again. Soon. The letter sent by Dumbledore received a reply. He handed the envelope to McGonagall, who opened it and began reading the reply on it. Good day, great Mr. Dumbledore. I remember the Cedric you asked very clearly. He was a child with special traits, and his arrival made my heart seem to warm up. As for his wand. That's a very ancient wand. 6, got it, the first character template card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Because there are souls from other worlds. In this life, Cedric's wand is also different from his previous life. The overall material has remained largely unchanged. What has changed is the length of the wand and the material used for the core. His wand is 14.5 inches long, made of white wax wood, with a core made of unicorn tail hair. But this tail hair is very special. Professor McGonagall continued to recite. When my father was collecting his tail hair, he didn't immediately notice that this unicorn was already the mother of 3 children. It's already difficult for unicorns to get pregnant. This tail hair is taken from a unicorn mother with 3 babies and contains a huge amount of energy. So my father had to lengthen the size of his wand to accommodate this tail hair, but it was precisely because it was too powerful that no wizard could gain its recognition for a long time. Until Cedric's arrival. I believe he will be a great white wizard. Best regards, Ollivander, to you. McGonagall returned the envelope to Dumbledore. After scanning again, Dumbledore's expression softened a lot. White wax wood is a symbol of knowledge, purity, and truth, and is said to have the function of driving away venomous snakes and healing snake bites. The wand is made of white wax wood and has a very stubborn personality. They will always hold on to their true masters, and if given to others, it will cause them to lose some of their strength and skills. Even known as the unicorn tree. It is a material that perfectly matches the unicorn tail hair. Especially with this wand, there is also a large and 3 small magical powers contained within it. Overall, this can be represented by the wand, as Cedric is an extremely pure, innocent, and powerful wizard. A great seedling of a powerful white wizard. Dumbledore sighed, but did not pay much attention. After all, he has seen many good seedlings. The vast majority of them eventually disappeared from the crowd, unable to make any real reforms to the wizarding world, and Cedric was no exception. So, we must teach him well, it doesn't leave us much time. In 2 more years. Harry is coming back soon. In Dumbledore's eyes, Harry's importance is unmatched by anyone else. Because he is the only choice to end Voldemort. No one can replace it. At that time, we need to devote all our energy to cultivating Harry and fighting against Voldemort, especially the latter. Cedric is not the decisive factor. I understand. Professor McGonagall left the principal's office. As she passed by the hallway, she stopped by the window and once again turned her gaze to the 2 people outside Hagrid's cottage, who were passionately discussing. Perhaps I laughed too happily. Hagrid, who was over 3 meters tall, leaned back and flipped down from the rocking chair. Cedric immediately stood up. He pulled Hagrid up from the ground and then cleaned him up one by one, removing all the stains from Hagrid's body. Seeing his powerful magic, Hagrid was greatly shocked. He lifted his big hand in surprise and exchanged high fives with Cedric. This is the warmest and kindest child that McGonagall has ever seen. She couldn't imagine how sad she would be if such a child could bring happiness and one day become the 3rd great demon king. Cedric, I will definitely teach you well. Even if it's only 2 years. Cedric looked up thoughtfully. But he didn't see anything except for the tall Hogwarts. What's wrong? Hagrid asked as he sat back in the rocking chair. It's okay, it's just time for magic practice. Cedric took out the standard spell, beginner, from his backpack, written by Miranda Gosshack. It contains 16 common spells. Fire curse, floating curse, locking leg curse, repair curse, softening curse, cutting curse, unlocking curse, dancing step curse, expansion curse, frozen curse, universal cracking curse, forgetting curse, tickling curse, flying curse, destroying curse, existence curse. However, not all of them need to be completed. Each grade only needs to learn 4, and the difficulty gradually increases. The design is very thoughtful. Cedric also decided to start learning from the lowest level spells. This is his main destination for early check.in at Hogwarts. He compressed his boxing training from 6 hours a day to 2 hours, just to leave time for practicing spells. Can you do me a favor? Cedric handed the book to Hagrid and said, can you help me recite the pronunciation above? There are some rhythms that I'm not quite sure about. Me, is that me? Hagrid's massive body suddenly became tense. His plate-like hands rubbed vigorously on his pants, carefully holding the standard spell, beginner level in the palm of his hand. Gazing at the long-lost book. He appeared particularly cautious. I have studied here before, this is a very rigorous course. Yeah, that's why I asked you to teach me the correct pronunciation. Cedric blinked at Hagrid. The curse is very strange, not only does it need to be accompanied by gestures, but also has a strange tone. Of course, the more proficient one is, the more they can be omitted. Voldemort is about to start causing trouble in 2 years, and Cedric has set himself a plan of 2 years to establish himself and 5 years to crush him. At that match, completely annihilate the conspiracy of that old snake. Step 1. It means learning all the basic magic in the first year. Other disciplines. It is necessary to complete the content learned by the first grade students within 3 months. Only learning beyond one's level. Only then can we attract the attention of those professors and allow them to teach themselves more advanced magic in advance. As for those rote memorization contents, he started self-learning a year ago and memorized it proficiently. Can I? Hagrid became increasingly reserved. He never thought that someone would teach him magic, but the first grade spell is indeed very simple. Isn't that good? Hagrid is still afraid. Over the years, although he has lived happily at Hogwarts. In fact, he didn't have any real friends, and it wasn't until Cedric's arrival that he felt like he had a good friend who talked about everything. This made up for his missing childhood. However, the shadow always shrouded Hagrid. Now even he dare not take the initiative to call Cedric his friend, fearing that the other person will think he is strange. After all, the age difference between the two is too great. Of course, we are friends. Cedric stood on tiptoe and whispered in Hagrid's ear. Now you teach me, when I get older, I'll turn around and teach you. Ding, moved Hagrid to success, you have obtained a reward talent point of +1 and a Hagrid character template card. 7. Hagrid's Life Wish List. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cedric didn't have time to check the rewards. Hagrid over there let out a sob, but he had already covered his face and started to sob. Woo-woo. You're such a good person, Cedric, you're willing to be my friend. I thought we had such a big age difference, and I was just a hunting ground guard. You would look down on me, woo-woo. Hagrid pulled out his handkerchief. The sound of blowing one's nose is like blowing a trumpet. Of course, we forget about our friendship. It's a friendship that can transcend the age gap. Cedric quickly comforted. This is still a child. He felt that he was completely opposite to Hagrid. Although I look like a child, I already possess the steadfast mind of an adult. Although Hagrid is tall. But in fact, my heart is very gentle and sensitive. Even though his right hand was crying while covering his face, his left hand still held Cedric's standard spell, Junior, firmly in the palm of his hand, motionless. A child with sensitive inner thoughts. I always consider the other person's feelings more, and the sadness comes and goes quickly. A sentence from Cedric. Immediately, Hagrid's tall voice and shadow began to tremble again. Woo-woo, ha ha ha. Friendship beyond age, I really like this sentence. Hagrid smiled for a moment and completely opened his heart. He quickly wiped his palms clean, then leaned down and solemnly extended his little thumb. So, let's make an agreement, friend. Okay, friend. Cedric and Hagrid completed the hook and then officially began learning. So, first of all, the ignition curse. Hagrid's voice remained so loud and clear. It was so loud that even standing at the entrance of Hogwarts, one could vaguely hear his voice. There is a figure leaning against the door like this. Staring blankly at the two of them, I have been watching for a long, long time. On the other side. Faced with these beginner spells, Cedric's learning speed is also very fast. Only 2 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. He has successfully added 2 spells to his list of spells. Fire Curse LV1, 40/100. Floating Curse LV1, 35/100. Hagrid not only earnestly taught, but also thoughtfully prepared 5 bonfires. Cedric lit each one and could move on to the next one to continue practicing. And he bent over. He tirelessly extinguished the fire he had lit one by one, so that he could maintain his practice speed more quickly. This deeply moved Cedric. Night falls. Cedric and Hagrid bid farewell. Thank you so much, my friend, but I need to have dinner with Professor McGonagall tonight. I will come again tomorrow. I'll bring you a classic dish from my hometown. As an original fan, he learned about the usage of the kitchen very early on. To thank Hagrid, he decided to have the household elves make an Eastern dish tomorrow to reward Hagrid. See you tomorrow, my friend. There's still 1 month left for summer vacation, and I'm looking forward to your hometown cuisine. Hagrid bid farewell to Cedric with reluctance. He kept watching him leave until the other party entered the castle, and then he began his daily forest patrol with his teeth. Cedric also opened a spell book on his way back. By checking the posture of the book, he opened the task template card previously prompted by the system. Template card Ruber Hagrid talent. Half giant blood, magic resistance increased to 30, strength increased to 3, physique increased to 2, lifespan increased by 100 years, appearance does not undergo any additional changes. Note that the average strength, agility, physique, and magic resistance attributes of an ordinary adult male wizard are all 1. Life Wish List. First item. Through OWL, Ordinary Witcher Level Examination, become a qualified wizard. Completing this wish list can increase the bonus of this template card by 50%. Option 2. Marriage. Completing this wish list can prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. Explanation. The initial size of the template card slot is 1, and it can be increased to a maximum of 2. Your template card slot has been opened. Cedric's heart was filled with cheers and cheers. This template card is too powerful. The increase in magical resistance greatly increases the probability of one being able to withstand surprise attacks. An increase in strength and physical fitness. It can give him a physical fitness comparable to that of a monster. With a punch of 3 points of strength, not to mention fainting, you can still experience the aftermath. With a 2-point physique, I can't even withstand a typical blow. This is a comprehensive improvement in physical fitness, even including resistance to toxins and drugs, which can actually enhance magical resistance and so on. Not to mention having a lifespan of 100 years. This is the ability that many people dream of. As long as the wizard profession is strong enough, it can become stronger as it ages. Just refer to Dumbledore to know. This new feature of the system is simply too powerful. From this perspective, the professors in the school, even Dumbledore, are all mobile treasure troves. And as long as they complete their life wish list, not only can it enhance bonuses, but it can also ignore the number of template slots. I won't say anything else. If all the templates of Hogwarts professors were taken down, my data would definitely go against the sky. Install 7 or 8 template cards, and bow to the Dharma god Merlin when he arrives. It's so exciting that it flies. However, everyone's life aspirations are not simple. Both of Hagrid's difficulties are very high. Through OWL, Ordinary Wizarding Level Exam, this requires oneself to learn these knowledge first in order to teach him. Secondly, Hagrid's learning ability is also very poor. I don't know how long it will take for him to pass the exam. The second one is even more difficult. In the original Goblet of Fire plot, Hagrid met his true goddess, Ms. Maxim. But they didn't come together in the end. They used to dance together at the Christmas ball, but they argued over a half-giant line. Although they reconciled when they went together to persuade the giant later on. But in the end, Hagrid still lived in his cabin. It indicates that they have other issues. This is really a headache. Cedric shut down the system, put away his books, but was startled by the figure in front of him. 8. Filch, I have a friend. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Meow. Louise was frightened. It jumped out of Filch's embrace and ran towards the interior of the castle. However, Filch did not move his steps, but apologized to Cedric with a hint of envy. I saw you coming back from Hagrid's side, but what seems to be bothering you? Worries. Cedric knows. The expression on my life wish list just now was all noticed by the other person. It seems that the other party has been watching here for a long time. Is it specifically waiting for me? Watching Filch try to squeeze out a smile, Cedric suddenly understood. It seems that I have played a significant role in treating him equally these days. Recalling the reward that moved Hagrid, Cedric quickly changed his original intention and said, "Yes, I did encounter a problem. Let's walk as we go, Mr. Filch." Good. The two walked side by side towards the main hall of Hogwarts. We were originally very happy practicing magic, but before we left, I encountered a few bad things. Really? Let's listen. The first one is Pippy Ghost. I was planning to consult Hagrid about any magic that could limit it. Unfortunately, he doesn't know either. Cedric said with great regret. I see it being mischievous all day. Must have caused a lot of trouble for you, Mr. Filch. Not waiting for Filch to answer, Cedric continued. I will work hard to learn in the future, and then I must find a spell to restrain the Pippy Ghost, so that it will never dare to cause trouble for you again. Oh, that's right. Filch's voice was a bit muffled. After listening to Cedric's words, there was a warm sensation rolling back and forth in his chest. It's like an iron. In the afternoon, he was held at the door, and the dark side that arose when Hagrid and Cedric were enjoying each other was burned flat, and there was no longer any feeling of grievance or envy. He suddenly had a smile on his face. I didn't expect you to still be thinking about me. Of course, we are friends. Cedric then said another key point. And I also heard that there are still squibs in this world. Filch's body stiffened. The whole person stopped in place, leaving only Cedric to continue moving forward alone. But Cedric seemed to have not seen it. I will definitely research corresponding magic potions in the future to solve their problems, but unfortunately, I don't know such friends. When the time comes to develop them, I don't know who to find to try them out. What a bother. There are too many unfair things in this world. Filch stood still in place. It wasn't until I heard that difficult and unfair sentence that I suddenly came back to my senses. He quickly followed Cedric. He forcefully suppressed the expression on his face and forced himself to remain calm with a trembling voice, saying, "If you really need me, I have a friend." Really? Cedric suddenly stopped and said, "That's really great. Thank you, Mr. Filch." Filch quickly waved his hand. "Well, this is nothing, I'm just introducing it and—" "No, thank you for being willing to believe me," Cedric interrupted. "I, a little wizard who didn't even start first grade, have already boasted a lot, but you are all willing to believe me. Thank you so much. Yuan, is that the reason?" Filch felt extremely strange in his heart. Yeah, why do I believe him so much? He paused in his footsteps once again. Filch, who was slightly behind by half a step, gazed at Cedric steadfast and stride forward, somewhat lost in thought. I really can't figure it out. Although the other party's sunny aura that attracts oneself has not changed. But why would I trust him unconditionally? There is always a strange cognition in psychology that he will always say and do. Is this a curse? Filch shook his head. What are you thinking? How could a young wizard who has not yet enrolled have a curse that could affect the minds of others? Although I emphasize to myself again, Cedric is just a young wizard who has not yet started learning. But when it comes to speaking, but he completely changed his appearance. I believe you will one day overcome the difficulties of this century. Squib. It is not excessive to be called the century's problem. That's settled, first deal with the Pippy Ghost, and then proceed to deal with the squirrel. Cedric stood on the stairs and turned around, earnestly extending his hand to bid farewell to Filch. At this time in the past, he will continue to dine in Professor McGonagall's office. And Filch will also go back to his own room. So, see you tomorrow, Mr. Filch. I hope to meet you every day, Cedric. Filch solemnly grasped Cedric's hand. Ding, touched by Filch's success. You have obtained a reward talent point of +1 and a Filch character template card. Sure enough, it's done. Knowing the original plot, it's really easy to grasp them. But don't worry. I will carefully study dealing with Pippi Ghost and dealing with squirrels, so I won't be deceiving you. After thinking it through in my heart, Ling Yun returned to Professor McGonagall's room. He soon realized that Professor McGonagall tonight seemed to be always hesitant to speak. 9. It is our responsibility to eliminate Voldemort. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I heard you've been adapting very well lately. Professor McGonagall finally spoke up. Yes, I have met Professor Snape, Mr. Hagrid, Mr. Filch, and they are all very kind. Cedric's words once again made McGonagall sigh in his heart. These three people must all be kind and amiable, that Pippi Ghost can be considered as passionate and unrestrained. Just adapt well. I haven't been that busy lately. If you have anything you want to learn, I can also set aside some time. Such a great opportunity. Cedric certainly won't miss it. He raised his hand and let Emery Switch's Beginner's Metamorphosis Guide fly into his hand. He passionately touched the quaint cover of this book. I know this spell is quite difficult, so I just read it, but I haven't started practicing yet. Professor McGonagall noticed another thing. Your flying curse is becoming more and more proficient. Maybe it is. Actually, Cedric hasn't been training the flying curse much lately. However, after obtaining Snape's 1000 experience points, his magic has increased from 32 points to 42 points. Increased by nearly 1/3. The higher the magic, the more adept he is at casting various spells. This kind of numerical value that can comprehensively enhance his strength is his top priority project now. He is preparing to add until 50 o'clock first. 50 o'clock will definitely be a crucial node, and there should be some magical changes. Cedric is looking forward to it. Indeed, the metamorphosis curse still needs to be gradual and cannot directly transform people. However, there is another spell that is also very interesting. Are you interested? Professor McGonagall naturally introduced the Guardian Curse. Guardian Curse. Cedric heard this spell and immediately realized that it could be a test for Dumbledore. After all, the Guardian Curse can directly reflect one's inner self. It seems that Snape's favor will be filled early on, and he will learn his signature brain-blocking technique. However, on the surface, he was naturally overjoyed. Is this also a high-level spell? I'm happy to learn it. It's not all lies. This spell is very useful for dark creatures and is almost half a signature skill. And the Guardian God also has many magical and wonderful uses. Even more coincidentally. Just now, Filch's template really added this. Template card Argus Filch talent. Beloved Loris, pet affinity talent increased to a pole. Life wish list. Firstly, become a true wizard. Completing this wish list can elevate the pet's affinity talent to level S. The second item. Being respected by students. Completing this wish list can prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. Filch's life wish list has truly changed Cedric's perception of him. He thought. Filch will at least have a life wish list that allows for the re-torture of students who make mistakes. After all, his most despicable performance. It was the bad attitude towards the students when Pink Toad was the principal. But it seems so. Actually, using torture is just to enhance one's deterrent power in the hearts of young wizards. No wonder. As a squib, having a job in the wizarding world is already Dumbledore's mercy. Facing mischievous little wizards. He has no magic at all to counter the opponent. So he hopes that the little wizards will be afraid of him, which will also facilitate his better work. Every country's bear child is a disaster. At least after the Battle of Hogwarts. While all the students celebrated their victory, Filch still held a broom and silently cleaned Hogwarts, which was already covered in ruins. To some extent. This job has even surpassed his life, becoming the only value of his existence. Cedric reflected after reading the template card. Perhaps it was because I respected his work that I was able to gain his recognition so quickly. It's really a wonderful world. When will we start? Come to my senses. Cedric immediately confirmed with Professor McGonagall. Perhaps some people don't know Professor McGonagall is actually a master of this skill. In the Deathly Hallows, she once summoned 3 silver cats to notify the other 3 deans that Harry Potter had returned. Can divide the guardian god into 3. You can see your strength. Okay, starting from tomorrow, I will teach you for an hour every night. This is great. Cedric excitedly pulled out his schedule booklet. This records his daily itinerary. 2 hours of boxing training in the morning, 2 hours of spell training, 1 hour of lunch break, 1 afternoon of spell training, 1 hour of review time, and 2 hours of reading time. Cedric first manipulated the quill and copied the previous schedule on a new page in its original form. Then gently brush the card with your hand. The ink on the card swam like a tadpole and quickly reassembled. A new itinerary has appeared. The reading time at night was reduced by 1 hour and changed to the words, learning spells from Professor McGonagall. Did you set this for yourself? Professor McGonagall curiously took the booklet. There are dates under each itinerary. For example, the previous page stated August 1st to August 2nd, 1989, which means that Ling Yun followed the previous schedule for the first 2 days. She flipped forward for a moment. Surprisingly, she found that this booklet was even more than she had imagined. 11 years old, 10 years old, 9 years old. At the age of 5. Professor McGonagall could no longer contain his surprise in his heart and exclaimed in surprise, "You've been arranging your schedule for yourself since you were 5 years old. So much shouting and fussing." For her, who has always been strict, it is already a very impolite behavior. I can see the shock in her heart at this moment. This is nothing, I'm just precocious. Cedric scratched his head. He glanced at the booklet and hoped that Professor McGonagall wouldn't open the last page. I'm afraid it might scare her. But obviously, his gaze reminded her instead. Professor McGonagall suddenly opened the last page and saw that it read. It's our responsibility to eliminate Voldemort. Oh my goodness. She couldn't help but lift her palm, blocking her mouth that had suddenly grown up in surprise. 10. 3 cards a day, a life wish that can be changed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sorry, this is because I was young and reckless. Cedric apologizes to Professor McGonagall for his shock. At that time, I didn't know the spell that was cast on those 3 words, otherwise I would have written the 3 words mysterious person, and I didn't know if there were any Death Eaters nearby who would have noticed it. His eyebrows furrowed tightly. This matter has indeed become a knot in his heart. Because if there were Death Eaters nearby at that time, perhaps one would have found that their family was talking about Voldemort. This may become some kind of hidden danger. What, are you apologizing for this? Professor McGonagall was once again stunned, as if he were petrified and motionless. She thought. Cedric will apologize for his arrogance at the age of 5. After all, who dares to imagine? How could a 5-year-old child dare to regard the great Demon King, who has made the entire wizarding world tremble with fear, as their lifelong wish? And look at this schedule. He not only established a goal, but also steadfastly moved forward towards it. Check the box on each page of the schedule. They are all great witnesses of his strong will. Is there anything else I haven't noticed, Professor? Cedric tilted his head slightly. He looked at Professor McGonagall with questioning eyes, afraid of making any more mistakes. Shouldn't I keep these 3 words? No, everything is wrong, child. Professor McGonagall stood up. She came to Cedric's side and, full of emotion, embraced him in her arms. You are even better than I imagined. Really, you don't need to be like this. Professor McGonagall still hasn't said a word. That is. There are already destined sons of fate in this world. For her. Cedric is moving towards an impossible goal. His bravery, strength, and self-discipline all moved her. But this is fate. It's that cruel but unchangeable fate. It's something you can't resist. A strong sense of guilt, a kind of apology that I know you won't succeed, but I cannot express to you. All of this ultimately transformed into a heart full of love in her heart. Professor McGonagall held Cedric tightly in his arms. Child, come to Gryffindor, I will teach you well. Ding, touched Professor McGonagall's success. You have obtained a reward talent point of +1, Professor McGonagall character template card. Oh my goodness. How was Professor McGonagall moved by himself? Cedric thought that professors like Snape and Professor McGonagall were determined. It will be very difficult to impress. Unexpectedly, it seems more relaxed than Filch. Did Professor McGonagall complete his own strategy without even saying anything against his heart? Cedric, who was held in his arms, immediately turned on the system. Template card Maliva McGonagall talent. Metamorphosis, can elevate this talent to S.level, Quidditch, can elevate this talent to A.level, First. Class Master Wizard, Magic +5 points, maximum limit of 90 points, Life Wish List. First item. Brave and just Cedric, please become an outstanding student who satisfies her. Completing this wish list can elevate the Quidditch talent to level S. The second item. Guard Hogwarts well. Before Voldemort's death, the number of deaths of Hogwarts wizards was less than 5. Completing this wish list can elevate the Metamorphosis talent to SS level. The third item. Guard Harry well. Before Voldemort's death, guard Harry well and prevent him from getting into trouble. Completing this wish list can prevent this template card from occupying the slot of the template card. This difficulty. It's almost a comprehensive improvement. In addition to the first wish, there is still hope for oneself to complete, and the following 2 times are long and difficult. Firstly, there is the Little Wizard of Death. 50 people died in the Battle of Hogwarts. To fulfill this wish, it seems that a significant transformation is needed in that Battle of Hogwarts. Protecting Harry may seem easy. But the condition is that this time span is difficult before Voldemort dies. A life wish that cannot be fulfilled ahead of schedule. However, even if he only completed the first item, he was given at least 2 S.level talents and increased his magic by 5 points, which can be considered a considerable gain. It seems that magic above 50 points has increased, and there are indeed special requirements. But what concerns Cedric the most? It is Professor McGonagall's first life wish. In fact, both the second and third items can be understood, and they are things that can be inferred from the original work. However, the first item. Surprisingly, it's related to oneself. This indicates that the list of life wishes of a character can actually be changed. As long as you have enough weight in the other person's heart, a list of life wishes related to yourself will appear. This sign indicates the life wish list of the character template card can be changed. If you are increasingly valued by others, will those 2 tasks that are basically impossible to complete ahead of time also change? Whether it's for rewards or experiments. Cedric knows it all. How should the talent points obtained in these days be increased? Talent point. 3. A level to S level consumes 1 point, and S level to SS level consumes 2 points. A.level talent transformation, upgraded to SS level talent transformation, awaken title. Born Animagus, activated title system, gained legendary degree +1. Ding, due to the change in the protagonist's attributes. Maliva McGonagall's magic card value changes, life wish list 2, rewards increased from Metamorphosis talent to SS level, changed to, metamorphosis talent increased to SSS level. I'll go, this is just a stroke of luck.